The Minnesota Timberwolves are still struggling to put things together, and I want to talk about it. So last night, they flew up to Toronto, ended up losing to the Raptors for the 100th time in a row. I guess they haven't won a game in Toronto in 20-something years. But it's not necessarily about the loss. Yes, it's not a good loss, whatever. It's more about how they lost. Because you can get got on any given night in the association. There's no teams that are completely pushover. So losing the game, again, not the end of the world, but it's more about how you got to this spot. So I'm going to take you to here. 5 minutes left in the game. It is a completely tied up score. In this freeze frame, Rudy Gobert has his guy sealed. Actually, that's not his guy. That's somebody significantly smaller than him. He has him sealed, and as you can see, he is calling for the ball. With ball is Julius Randle, top of the key. He's got Jakob Poeltl there. There's no way Jakob Poeltl can recover whatsoever to recover. So in a lot of cases, you throw this down to your big fella, and your big fella makes a play and gets you an easy 2 points. But you will see the ball never touches him. And it takes Rudy Gobert forever to get out of the paint, and he gets credited for a 3-second violation. Again, reminder, tie game, 5 minutes ago. This is not a possession that you want to lose without a shot going up. And there are some obvious frustrations from Rudy Gobert. Obvious frustrations from team captain Anthony Edwards, who comes to frame like, what the hell is going on here? How do you get a 3 seconds call? But obviously, he's like, he didn't give me the ball. And Anthony Edwards is trying his best as a 23-year-old, I guess, leader and saying, you kind of got to get over that. It's 5 minutes left in this game. And frustration, for sure. Now, the game is over at this point. 5-point game, 10 seconds. Rudy Gobert is going to run the floor. He's going to be wide open under the basket. Julius Randle's finally going to give him a pass, but it's not a normal pass. It's like a, here, damn, all that complaining pass. And you know what Rudy Gobert's hands look like. He fumbles it. It's a turnover. Game was over regardless, but Julius Randle storms off the court, and that is the end of the game. Whew. So again, vibes are not looking amazing. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say both of these players are in the wrong here. Maybe some more than others, but let me explain. And I think those two plays kind of encapsulate what it's like when you change the dynamic of a team so very much. Please, NBA, do not copy strike my video. I'm just trying to entertain my peoples. Here's some clips from last season when, of course, it was Karl-Anthony Towns. What you're going to see a ton is Rudy Gobert get that same seal. This is not even a smaller defender. This is Victor Wembanyama. And Karl-Anthony Towns having the trust, I guess, and Rudy Gobert to give him that ball to get him that basket. Later in the exact same game, complete seal off. It is Karl-Anthony Towns ducking it down to him, and he gets another basket. This clip that I'm showing you, I dug up these clips. This goes on for quite some time. We can go possession after possession. This is Domantas Sabonis. Here's a touch. Rudy Gobert, and one. And again, I could keep going. It just happened a ton last season. Now, this doesn't also showcase the times where Rudy Gobert did have his man sealed and he didn't get the pass, because we all have watched Rudy Gobert in his career. There's a lot of times where he does get the pass. It also doesn't showcase the times where he got the pass and he missed. So it's not a full one-to-one thing, but I just want to showcase how Karl-Anthony Towns had the confidence in Rudy Gobert to get that ball, even though he knew that a lot of the times that possession is going to end in a turnover because he's got bad hands, or it's going to end up in a bad shot. This is something that happened a lot in the 90s. Oh my God, this is me recalling me watching all those damn VHS tapes my dad used to give me about the Bulls, where there were times in a lot of the games during the 90s where a guy like Luke Longley or Bill Cartwright would get one of the first 2 shots of the game on a team that had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. It's not because they believed that those shots were good shots. It's more about, hey, this is our big fella. He's got to do so much on the defensive side of the ball, even if it's not the most beautiful look, and it might end up in a loss of possession. We want to make sure he feels like he is empowered. So on the back end, you ain't got to worry about Bill Cartwright stepping over and drawing a charge or clobbering a dude. That is something that happened a lot. And I feel like that is something that Karl-Anthony Towns recognized, right? Rudy Gobert, he's not a great offensive player. He's not a good offensive player. He's a bad offensive player. But at the end of the day, his value's on the defensive end, and nobody just wants to play one side of the ball. So if that means we give him 2 touches like this a game, damn it, we'll do it even if only one of them turn into a basket. And that is something that Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert have to figure out. I don't think there's any excuse that this grown 30-something-year-old man should be throwing a tantrum because he didn't get the basketball. Like, he is not in the right here whatsoever. But also, I do recognize that I think part of that is the lack of chemistry, a lack of feel for each other on the court. And the more I watch the Timberwolves, I'm starting to just appreciate Karl-Anthony Towns way more for his last season, man, because obviously the first year that him and Rudy Gobert played together, it was nearly a disaster as well. And then last season, for him to be able to buy in on all fronts on the defensive side as a playmaker, as a scorer, and have them be one of the best teams of basketball, I think might be one of the coolest things about Karl Anthony Towns' career. And now that he is in New York and he's putting up 30s and occasional 40s, I think we can kind of look back on that last season and be like, damn, Karl Anthony Towns still somehow ended up being underrated because you think about all of the things he was tasked with last season. This is ESPN's expanded NBA standings. Last year, Minnesota was 1 game away from being the 1 seed. And against the sub 500 teams, they were 24-6. That's what it takes. You're going to see the main consensus thing across all of the good teams of basketball. They beat bad teams. You have to. Denver Nuggets lost 2 total games against sub 500 teams. And last year, Minnesota lost 6. And here's the new Minnesota. They played 8 games against sub 500 teams. And they've already lost 4. Obviously, a big difference than last year. Now, I think the Toronto Raptors are better than what their record says, especially now that Scotty Barnes is back, now them being 4-12. They were not a 3-12 team by any means. They're not a good team either, but they're better than what their record shows. So I maybe give a little bit of grace there. But it's just, again, showcasing how much different it really is. NBA, please, please, please let me get this video out. One thing I noticed, if we're just talking about schematically what's going on with the Minnesota Timberwolves, specifically in this game, was how they're having Rudy Gobert guard the pick and roll differently. Like, in history, his best years is obviously him playing heavy drop coverage and trying to prevent, the roll man or anything at the basket. Now in this game, this is the whole game. And if I'm not mistaken, they gave up 56, 55 points in the paint against the Raptors, where you're going to see the way they run things nowadays. No, this is not necessarily a pick and roll, but just a pick in general, is that Rudy Gobert's like there for a switch, kind of. Tag man on Jakob Poeltl, Anthony Edwards kind of lost in no man's land, and it leads to an easy lay. And that was happening all game long. And it was just, I wrote it down in my notes. I'm just confused, and maybe they are too, with what the hell is going on defensively. This is just different. And different is not necessarily bad, but it could be one of the reasons why this team has not looked as good. You remember last year, they were one of the 2 best defensive teams in all of basketball. That's where they hung their hat. And this year, they're not bad defensively. They're just not great. They're like 9th. Great. I mean, that's cool. That's cool. But great is 1 through 3, and that's what they were last year. Look at this pick and roll. Rudy Gobert's like just in a full-on switch. And now Jakob Poeltl has his man sealed. You do get the around from RJ Barrett. Good contest, but weak side rebound. It also got me worrying about like the transition defense. Is that something I have not paid attention to? Because they did give up a lot of transition buckets in that game specifically. Not a worry. According to the statistics, they are one of the better transition teams in basketball. Maybe it was just that one game, that young Raptors team really got under their skin, and RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes went coast to coast 100 times. Either way, I think Julius Randle is, of course, in the wrong for not rewarding his teammate from sealing off. But I also think Rudy Gobert has to recognize who he is as an offensive player, or for the first time in his career, go work on that offense, brother. You're 32 years old. Because getting the 3 seconds in that scenario is inexcusable. And they made this trade talking about future financial flexibility. The idea of that is cool, but it's hard to convince your fans for a team that went as far as they did last year and be as good as they were last year, that future flexibility should be at the top of their mind. So it might take some time. It may never get better, but as of today, it's rough.